I wish somebody would have said to me, I'm sorry that happened and that wasn't your fault. Because I thought that every time I was beaten or things happened, I thought that was my fault. And that was so ingrained with my personality and who I was that I'm in my 20s and 30s and I'm still thinking that when bad things happen, it's my fault. So I would say to somebody struggling with this, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Walk your path in a way that you feel honorable, that you feel good about the choices you're making, and you don't have to make choices that cause you pain just to benefit somebody else.
Welcome to Your Second Act, the podcast that proves that life doesn't have to end at 40, 50, or even 60, because when it comes to living your best life, age is just a number. Hey lovelies, it's Michelle, your host. Thanks again for tuning into another episode of Your Second Act. I have experienced in the last 2 weeks empty nesting. And at first I was thinking, what's this going to be like? Both my girls are away traveling at the moment. And for the first time in 21 years, my husband and I find ourselves alone. Well, not completely alone, obviously with the dog, but it's been really nice. I have loved the fact that the house has been so tidy. I haven't really done much grocery shopping. We have just been very casually eating whatever we like every night, not cooking up the big meal, going out. I even went away for the weekend with a girlfriend. I think, obviously, some people would be thinking, yeah, well, that's not exactly what it's like all the time. But it's been nice. I am missing them. I'm missing them a lot. But also, I think if I know that they're safe and they're having a good time, then for me that is enough. And obviously I know they are coming back. But it's been a nice taste of what's to come in the future. And being in midlife, I can see that there will be a lot of changes when they do leave the nest for good. And the fact that my husband and I still get on, we still like spending time with each other. And that's one thing I've always said to my girls. When you meet somebody, of course there's that initial rush of love, sexual attraction. But deep down, I truly believe what is so important in a relationship is your friendship, because let's face it, you don't have those feelings that you had initially 21 years later. It changes, it evolves, a relationship evolves. But I still know that we get on. We like to spend time with each other, and we have always been like that. And I feel very, very blessed because I was married when I was a lot younger to someone else. And if I think about what life would have been like with him 21 years later, it definitely wouldn't have been the same type of relationship I have now with my husband, because I don't think we were friends. I don't think we really understood each other, my ex-husband and I. But one thing with my husband, my current husband, boy, there's a lot of husbands in there, isn't there? I realised that that's been the common thread between the two of us through the last 25 years that we've been together. We've always remained friends through everything, and we love to hang out. So I feel that moving forward into empty nesting years, that I think we're going to be okay. So yeah, it's been a really nice experience, but I am looking forward to having my girls back because I do miss them. I'm not looking forward to the messy house and the responsibilities of having to cook and clean again. But maybe this is my time to shift my mindset to maybe not go back to those old ways. So anyway, I'll keep you guys updated. Today's episode is quite a different one. When I say to you, imagine breaking up with your mum. Now, that brings a lot of weird feelings for me because I love my mum to bits. We have a great relationship. Yes, there are times where we annoy the hell out of each other, but at the end of the day, I know she has my back and I have hers. But not everyone has that same relationship. We all have had toxic relationships in our lives, and a lot of the times we can walk away from them, especially when they're not related to us. But when it's your mum, how can you break free from that? How do you come to the point in your life that you say to yourself, she's my mum, and in some cases, I still love my mum, but she doesn't serve me anymore as someone who is good for my life? That would be a really hard decision to make, to actually walk away and cease all ties. And today's guest, Jennifer, she's done just that. She opens up about the years of abuse and trauma she endured and the difficult choice to end this toxic relationship in her second act. And she actually has no regrets. It was really refreshing speaking to her because she's done the work on herself. She's come to that realization after many, many years of it that this actually just doesn't suit me anymore. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't bring me happiness. So even though she's my mum, why should I have a relationship with somebody that if it was anybody else, I would have walked away from? I admire her strength and her courage, and I think you're going to really, really get a lot out of this conversation that I had with her. So let's get into Jennifer's second act. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for tuning in all the way from the US. You're actually in the future because you're so far
You're in the
behind.
future. You're in the future. I'm behind.
Yeah, that's right. But you come into my future.
I am. So what lottery number should I pick?
Exactly. Wouldn't that be nice? Sorry, I don't actually gamble, so I can't help you there. So anyway, I digress. Let's get into it. When we spoke last week, you opened up about how you made the decision to break all ties with your mother after years of abuse. And I know that this topic would have many people wondering why. And actually, one topic that could be really helpful because let's face it, not everybody has a Brady Bunch upbringing. And there's something about family that often excuses bad behavior just because they're family. And the reality is that nobody should have to put up with harmful relationships, regardless whether they're your mother or not. And today we're diving into your courageous journey of breaking free from an unhealthy relationship. And I really believe that the beauty of being in our second act is that life's lessons have made us stronger and a hell of a lot wiser. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Jennifer, what led you to decide to end your relationship with your mum?
Ew, it's a loaded question. Well, I'm not going to get into a lot of the specific details because it's not necessary. What I would say is that my entire childhood was full of a lot of really traumatic moments. There was a lot of physical abuse, a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of head games, I would say, like rules would change and you didn't expect it, things like that. And as I became an adult, those things, I mean, she stopped physically abusing me, but the mental games continued. And a lot of things she was doing there continued. The thing is, it's so complicated. It's your mom, and when things aren't going well with your mom, especially when you've been raised by an abusive person, you tend to think it's your fault. So I just kept trying. I kept trying. And then I had my own kids, and my kids had a relationship with her, and she had all these guilt ties on me, and it just kept going. When my daughter was in her early 30s, I was on the phone with her one day, and she said to me, "Mom, she talks about you with nothing but disdain. She doesn't even like you. Why are you giving her even 5 minutes of your attention? I don't understand." And something about that just sparked something in me like, why am I doing this? Why am I allowing this to do that? And I didn't quickly make the decision that moment. I will say, what I did is I am a person of faith. I spent some time praying, and I just started to feel peace about just closing that door and not allowing that in my life anymore. And it was about 6 years ago.
And what would you say has been the hardest part of making this decision?
Well, here's the thing. My mom didn't do everything bad. She did some nice things. She helped me so much when my kids were little. I remember one of my favorite stories when I was a kid. We live in outside of Buffalo, New York, where we're known for getting a lot of snow. We were snowed in at our apartment one time when I was a kid, and She grabbed a picnic basket and she packed a picnic lunch and a blanket. And she took the blanket and spread it out in the living room. And we had a picnic in the middle of winter. So, I mean, she did some nice things for me. And I think that most people can relate to that nobody's totally terrible, And so it was really hard to kind of like say, do I just throw this whole relationship away? So that part was challenging. It really was. It took a long time before I finally had to decide that the bad really outweighed the good.
And I think it's also protecting yourself, isn't it? And putting up those boundaries, because it doesn't matter who they are, family or friends. No one deserves to be treated like that. But I can imagine I'm lucky I have a close relationship with my mother. And the thought of not having her in my life, well, I can't even imagine what that would be like. But I know many people who don't have those relationships and they suffer day in, day out, and the guilt that they feel because they do want to walk away, but there's something about the fact they're family. We should keep working on this. But why? Why do we have to? I mean, do you go through some feelings of guilt, or do you second guess the decision that you've made?
I do not. I don't at all. I've had people say to me things like, what if she dies? And I say, what if she does? I mean, she's going to. That's the end of everybody has the same ending, I'm at peace with my decision. The hardest part for me was leading up to the decision because people would just like scold me. They'd say things like, that's your mother, as if because she's my mother, that gives her a free pass to do anything she wants. And finally, one day it snapped at me when somebody said to me, that's your mother. And I said to them, I know. Isn't that terrible? I was just like, I turned it right around to them. Like, mothers aren't supposed to act like that. One of the details I will share is she was in the habit of talking badly about me to everybody and say things that weren't even true. And she would say things even to my children. And one time she went to my children's school and she was standing in the office talking about me to some of the people that worked at my children's school. And my daughter's teacher came out and said, excuse me, are you talking about your daughter? I will love that woman until I die because somebody stuck up for me.
She had your back.
Yeah, because I didn't get that very much. People seem to think that because it's your mom, that somehow if things are going bad, it's my fault. And she's just like, without question, you're not supposed to question her behavior. And that's not fair.
Why do you think she had this opinion of you? What was it? Do you think it was envy? Do you think she was jealous of the fact that you had a great relationship with your own children?
I will say this started with her being jealous of me when I was like 6 or 7 years old. It's the first time I heard her on the phone talking about me badly. I was a little kid. So this has gone on my whole life. Yeah, there is some jealousy. She has jealousy about relationships. Like I was very close to my grandmother, her mother. I was very close to her until she passed. She was really more like my mom. And my mother was very jealous of that relationship. So she would constantly tell my grandmother lies about me to try to get my grandmother to think badly of me. And yes, she's jealous that I have 5 kids and I have a wonderful relationship with every one of my kids. And like, I'm very close to my own daughter. Like my daughter can't imagine not having me and I can't imagine not having her. She's very jealous of that. And I used to pity her. I don't anymore. I think she has some mental health issues and she's choosing not to get any help for that. That's her choice. She's made every choice that she's made. And I also am married to a really great guy. And my mother got divorced when I was 6 and never even dated after that. So I think there's some jealousy there. She's got a pretty severe weight problem and I don't. It's just a lot of petty stuff in some ways. And like I said, I used to feel bad. Like I would feel like I have a really nice life and we go on nice vacations and, I have this wonderful family. And so I would try to do things for her and I would try to make life nicer for her. And I guess I was trying to get her to love me maybe or to accept me. I don't know. Once I gave up though, it was such a relief. I was just like, oh, it's over. I don't have to do that anymore.
I was going to ask you, how does it feel now that she's not in your life anymore?
So I will see her if it's an extended family gathering, I'll see her. And I am polite and respectful to her because I am a polite and respectful person. And of my kids, 4 of them have no relationship with her. One of them barely has a relationship with her because he doesn't like conflict, but I still require that of them. I said, you be polite and respectful because I raised polite and respectful children, and that speaks of me. So I'll say hello, but we're not having a conversation. We're not having lunch. And if she needed food or something, I would definitely provide, so I wouldn't leave her to die and suffer, but beyond that, I'm not calling her, we're not going for coffee, it's just, and it feels good. It really does. There's no pressure on me. I don't feel like I'm failing.
Did you actually have this conversation with your mother to say, I am ceasing all ties with you, or it's just an unspoken truth?
What happened is she sent me a text message and she was inviting me to go to an event at her church. And it was an event that I hated to go to because she would take me to this event, and I'm a college professor. She'd take me to these events and she would point at me and brag about me in front of people as if I was her show and tell object. And it was embarrassing because she doesn't have any people skills. I always say her people skills are like a drunk rhinoceros in a china shop. It's just so embarrassing. And so she'd invited me to one of these events, and I didn't answer the text for days. So then finally she wrote, is something wrong? Why don't you text me back? And I spent a long time crafting the perfect text. I said to her that I'm hurt and confused by the conversations that she has with my children about me. And I'm trying to decide what to do about that, and I'm going to pray. That's how I left it. That was 6 years ago. I'm still praying.
And has she tried to reach out since then?
She never tried to reach out in a way that was trying to reconcile. She will randomly, once a year or something, she'll leave me a voicemail or something, and it'll be about, she left me a voicemail to tell me that my cousin died. Something like that, but she has never once tried to reconcile the relationship. And she won't, because one of the things with my mother is she enjoys being a victim. So she enjoys, now she's a victim of me. And I'm fine with that. She likes being a victim. I'm doing that for her. I'll just have at it. I'm just enjoy.
Well, she sounds like a true narcissist.
She's yes. And I think that word is overused. I think the word narcissist and toxic and even trauma to a little bit is all overused. But in my situation, it all 100% applies. And most mental health diagnoses that I read, she fits into them. So whether it's borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality, she fits into all of that. I've stopped trying to diagnose her.
It is what it is, isn't it? I do believe people like that, they can't actually see where they're at fault. They will never, ever admit that they're wrong. So why spend all your energy on trying to make them see that? Because if they're never going to, then really, what's the point?
She's actually has a whole revisionist history about what my childhood was like that she lives in. And she has memories of things that didn't happen and then memories of things that happened she doesn't remember. I mean, she just reinvented the way our life was. And I think that's the only way she can be at peace with herself.
But obviously, this has left you with a lot of trauma because you were a little girl going through all of this. So how have you helped yourself? Have you gone through therapy to discuss this?
I've been in therapy for years. I am actually in EMDR therapy, which has been amazingly helpful. I'm also married to a really amazing guy. I can't even say enough about him. His personality, he's just like a person of peace. You can sit next to him and feel the peace. And he's very protective. He's very nurturing. He's given me a safe space to heal and to be myself. And really, with him in my life, I've grown to be the person I am today. And I love the person I am today. I'm doing all the stuff I love to do. I'm a writer. I love to write. I've written several short novels in a pen name. He encourages me to do that stuff. And I'm now a college professor and I love it. And he has been my, right there, my wind in my sails for everything. He believes in me for everything I'm doing. I just launched an online store because it's something I've always wanted to do. And he was the one going, launch it, do it. But it's having him protect me and make me feel strong. And it's just been wonderful. I have strong faith in God. I'm not a religious person, as they say. I'm just a person that starts my day talking to God and I read my Bible. I do have a church community, but it's just more of a personal spiritual thing for me. So that's part of it. Also, like, as I've gone forward and grown professionally, and this is going to sound crazy, and I'm going to give a little shout out to it, but how I met you was on Midlife Momentum, this amazing online Facebook community. And just the way my path laid out, I ended up meeting the people that own that community. And I now have like Zoom meetings with them all the time, and I'm working with them. We're growing this community. We have more plans beyond it. We're setting up all these events. That's all part of this, like where my path is led. And my life is so full now. I have 5 kids. I have 5 grandchildren. I have this wonderful life. I'm going to Europe next week. It's just like, my heart is at peace. You can't put a price on peace, you know? And my heart is at peace. And there's times when, because I did grow up in a very chaotic, traumatic environment, in my 20s and 30s, there were times when I still kind of embraced chaos, which looking back, that seems so weird.
Well, you didn't know any different, did you?
I didn't. But now it's like my husband and I will be having a disagreement, and I will actually have the thought, is this worth losing my peace? Like, is it even worth it? And not to say it never is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a really serious thing. No, okay? That dishwasher needs to be unloaded. I'm kidding. But I'm just saying, it's like, that's a different mind frame to think that way. Like, is this worth giving up a day of peace with my loved ones over this? Over some stupid thing. And that's just healing and growth. My heart is healed. I'm good. I can think about my mother and I don't have any feelings anymore. Like it's weird to say that. It's just kind of apathy, other than the way I would feel about any human being. Like, I don't wish ill on her. But I don't have any like anger. I don't have any like emotion. I'm just kind of like, that was a chapter of my life and we're done with that. And now I'm in this chapter, and it's a different situation. And
I think that's amazing. And I think a lot of us probably battle those feelings of, well, they're a family member, so I have to have this relationship with them. But you don't. Really, you don't. I think one thing I've realised as I've gotten older, if it doesn't serve me, if it's not aligned with my values, then I don't want it to be part of my life. And when I speak to people like you, that is a big step. What you have done, a big change in your life, but you're reaping the rewards and you are surrounding yourself with what is good in the world and how you've raised your own children. So I think there's a lot to be said for making these decisions. So for someone who's out there listening to this and has maybe a similar relationship with a family member or not, what is your advice?
I've got a lot to say. One of the things is, recently somebody asked me, like, if I could go back to my younger self, what would I say to them? And what I would say to them, to my younger self, is I would say, I'm sorry that happened to you. And that wasn't your fault. And that was unfair. And I wish somebody would have said those things to me, when I was growing up. I wish somebody would have said to me, I'm sorry that happened and that wasn't your fault. Because I thought that every time I was beaten or things happened, I thought that was my fault. And that was so ingrained with my personality and who I was that I'm in my 20s and 30s and I'm still thinking that when bad things happen, it's my fault. So I would say to somebody struggling with this, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Walk your path in a way that you feel honorable, that you feel good about the choices you're making, and you don't have to make choices that cause you pain just to benefit somebody else. And if somebody else in your life is causing you pain, I would encourage you to take a step aside, even if it's short break for now, while you reevaluate. Because I didn't do a sudden with my mother. I told you I just didn't answer that text. The text was like 6 or 7 years ago. I just didn't answer it. But I needed that little window of space to make the final, like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Also, what I would tell you is you're going to have people in your life that are going to say things like, that's your mother and you're going to regret this. And my mother died. I'd give anything for one more day with her. I heard all that stuff. This is your life. This is your path. This is what you have to walk out. It isn't about anybody else. So if the people around you can't be supportive of you making decisions that are the best for you, they're not the right people. You got to find people that care more about you than that kind of stuff. My best friend supported me 100%. And the only thing she said to me is, I wish you would have done it sooner. That's the people you need. The people that are going to support you becoming whole and healed and, finding your place of peace. And when you get there, you're going to be like the one thing I would always say is, I wish I had done it sooner. I just wish I wouldn't have put myself through a lot of really hard times that weren't worth it. I didn't get anything out of it other than upset and hurt. At the same time, I have no guilt because I know I did everything I could.
And that's the best thing. You don't want to have guilt associated with a decision because you'll never feel completely right about it. But I can see within you that you are free. You're free of that.
Totally am. Completely free of it. She couldn't put guilt on me now, and she used to be able to do it so well. She used to be able to manipulate me to do things now I'm I can't believe I went along with that. But now I'm just there's no way that she could guilt me now. That she's around some of my extended families, and she recently went to a family gathering, and she said, "I'm sorry I'm late. I was working on my will." That's her way of reminding everybody that she's going to die.
Yeah, it's the attention seeking, isn't it? It's poor me. It's playing the victim and staying in the victim role, which can be really, really frustrating.
Like I said, I don't have any emotion at this point. And I guess I would say I might get a little bit of annoyed because she still tries to do stuff with my one son, and I get a little annoyed. If I had my way, none of my kids and none of my grandchildren would be anywhere near her ever again. That would be my wish, because I just don't think she has anything good to offer to anybody. But they have to make their own choices, and I support the choices that they make,
Obviously, you don't want to have the relationship that you've had with your mother, because I'm sure she controlled the way you did things, the way you thought about things. So you're giving your children the freedom to make their own decision. But within your own family, as in your siblings, has it caused a divide because you no longer speak to your mother?
Well, my brother hasn't spoken to my mom in 35 years. So him and I are fine. I mean, I'm just wow, you were ahead of the game, buddy. And he had his own reasons, his own story, pretty awful stuff. My sister is autistic, but she's very high functioning. And she actually lives, and this is going to sound strange. We own a duplex. My mother lives in half and my sister lives in half. She was living there when I still had a relationship with her. They pay rent. My husband deals with that. So my sister is intertwined with my mother still, but her and I are just upfront with each other. We're fine. We go to lunch together. We do things. I mean, we have conversations. She once in a while she'll call me up to complain about our mother, and I'm just I know. When you're ready to move out and get a different apartment, I'll help you. Let me know. It's but there's been no division.
Well, that's good, and that's nice to know that you're there for them. Especially your sister, if she wants to free herself from that relationship.
And I wish that she would. I would support that. You got to make your own choices. And the other thing is that a lot of my other family members had already distanced themselves from her. So nobody in the family is even questioning me. She's 77 now, and her circle of people has gotten very small. So, and a lot of it just because of these behaviors. And she thinks everybody else is the villain. And I'm you should really look at the common denominator here.
They can't though, because it's everyone else's fault.
No, and most people just get to the point. She had two best friends when I was a kid that I call them both aunt. They're both still in my life, and neither of them are in her life.
I feel sad for people like your mum because they can't see where they're going wrong. Look, I think a lot of people find it really hard to admit that they're wrong about something. It is hard to sometimes say you're sorry, but at the end of the day, you have to do that. You have to actually reflect on what you've done and admit where you've gone wrong. But there are some people, and I think maybe your mother's this type of person, that will never see it. It doesn't matter how much you'll tell her. And I really feel sad for people like that because they're the ones that are missing out. They're missing out on having relationships with their daughters, their grandkids. It must be a very soulless life.
I could be an amazing daughter. I would love to have a mom I could go on vacation with. I'd love to do all those things, and she's missing out, and my grandkids are amazing. She's missing out on them, and these are her choices, and it's the way she's chosen to live. And like I said, I don't really have any emotion for her, so I don't feel sorry for her because I think that enough things have blown up in her face that something should have woke her up. But on a more positive note, I'm glad that beauty came from ashes, that I was able to I have a beautiful life now.
I like that. Beauty came from ashes. I like that.
It's that's a biblical thing, but because of what I came from, it gives me a greater appreciation for what I have. And just having a family that enjoys being with me is like so amazing. Like my kids just like hanging out, and it's like my daughter actually has already FaceTimed me twice since I was talking to you because she lives about 3 hours away from me and she FaceTimes me pretty much every day.
But that's because of the work you've put into your family, into your life to make it different.
I spent a lot of time being very introspective, and I'm an introspective person. I always have been. I remember laying in my bunk bed and trying to figure out why the word IRON was pronounced iron. It's like, I think about things, okay? So I spent a lot of time thinking about different things in my childhood and then changing the way I responded with my own children. And that definitely helped. And so, like I said, I look at some benefits of it almost like I know what that felt like. And like I said, that's what led me to really appreciate what I have today. I have a great career. I have an amazing family. I have this extra career where I get to be in this Facebook community and meet people like you. I would have never met you if it wasn't for that.
We wouldn't. And now tell me, now you're in your second act. Obviously, you're having an amazing second act by the sounds of it. And you've launched your own online store. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's called Tidbits and Coffee. It's at tidbitsandcoffee.com. And it's just a store. It's geared towards women. It's all about add a little cozy to your life. I did get a special roaster coffee out of New York City, and I do have some 8 special blends. They should be in the store by the end of the week. But other than that, it's just like soft things like blankets and candles. And I got skincare stuff it's all the clean stuff, like paraben free and all that. And it's just like little things to make your life a little cozier. And I did this for 2 reasons. One is because I just love the name Tidbits and Coffee. I actually thought of this in 2018 and got the Gmail account then. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But also because I teach electronic commerce and I thought it'd be good for me to have the experience of setting up one of these stores. So I just wanted the experience of doing it. And if I make some money, that's great. But I have had a lot of fun. I learned so much. And I have a novel about 80% done finishing. And my plan was to finish that this summer. So I was like, I've written other books, like I said, but this is my first novel. And my novel, just tell you, I don't want to take too much time, but it's actually a therapeutic journey where I have characters in my novel that represent me, represent my mother, represent my grandmother. Actually, it represents a couple of my grandmothers. I made it into one character because I had some really great grandmothers growing up, and I owe so much to them, for who I am. And I wrote this as like a therapy thing, and the story is coming together so well, but it really looks at that challenge between this little girl that's actually raised by her grandparents and then the mother character is like mine, and her whole challenging with just dealing with this person and trying to navigate life with that. And so that's the novel in kind of in a nutshell.
And you'll try and get it published as well?
When I'm finished with it, I want to get a professional editor. All my other books, I didn't get them professionally edited. I want to do that. And then I'll decide. My husband is like my biggest fan. He's insisting that, we're going to be millionaires because of my books. I'm always saying nobody else is going to read this. And he's always going, why do you say that? You're such a good writer.
You'll probably help a lot of people. No, you'll help a lot of people, Jennifer. You should do it.
I hope so. I mean, and one of the reasons I really was not struggling badly, but just challenged about doing this with you because I wanted to make sure that anyone listening to this would just get nothing but hope from it. And if it's your mom or your dad, whoever it is, if you're in this challenging relationship and it's with a family member and you're just like not knowing what to do about it and you feel like it's your fault and you're the one that's got to fix it. And I just hope they get some hope to know that it's not your fault. You be the best you. And if you're being the best you and things are still blowing up, it's not your fault. My mother used to love to assign intentions to me. Like she would say that I did something because this, I took the last cookie because I didn't want my brother to have it. It was always like she would always assign these things to it, and it's like these motivations she would assign them. And it's like, I took the last cookie because it looked good. Nothing to do with my brother.
Simple as that. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing, a little bit about your story, because I think a lot of people, it'll resonate with them because, like I said, we weren't all brought up like the Brady Bunch. And it would have been nice, but that is the reality. And the reality is that you don't have to have these toxic relationships. If they don't serve you, you don't have to have them. It doesn't matter that if they're your mother or not. I truly believe in this. And I have a close friend who is going through something very similar. but she feels very, very guilty about it. And even though she's within herself, she said, I'm taking a break because I need to have a break from this person, but it still eats her up. But it's her journey that she's got to go through that in order to realize that actually that person probably doesn't serve you any good in your life. So if they're not there, it's probably better. It's a better thing for you.
My encouragement to you is, this is what I say to people that I encounter like this, is I say, you're going to leave when you're ready, and I'm going to support you when you're ready. And I always tell them that, because I've had people, I don't want to push anybody to make that choice. So I say, you're going to leave when you're ready. To me, that's the best way to phrase it, to let them know like it's your choice, empower them. When you're ready, you'll go. And I'm going to be there when you go. And I was going to say, if anybody wants to connect with me and like, Facebook friend me or talk to me or do anything like that, they can find me on the Midlife Momentum Facebook page. Just go there. I'm there. And they can easily connect with me there. And I'd be happy to like have a chat with them. I would even like do a Facebook video chat or whatever and meet with them. I'm there. I feel like so much has been poured into me, and I'm so blessed that I'd be more than happy to like share some of that to help someone else. I'd be honored. I would be honored to do that for somebody else.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put your details in the show notes and also the details to your online store, because that sounds amazing. But yes, and please join this great community on Facebook, because I've loved it. It's been amazing just reading other people's comments and thoughts, and it's like even my own Facebook community. I think it's great to have it, to share our stories in a safe space. And there are a lot of people out there that I think are quite lonely and they don't have the community. So yes, it's online, but look, you and I, we've made a connection. I've made a connection with a lot of my guests. It's been amazing.
I have made a friend in this community that we're talking right now. I have made a friend that I am very confident will be a lifelong friend. Her name's Carol Ann. We get on the phone and talk, and we're on the phone for 2 hours. Like, it's just like we feel like we were supposed to like be in each other's life. She lives in Virginia. She lives like 10 hours away from me, but she will be at my house in my pool. I'm going to make it happen. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I like to end all of my episodes with the same question. What's something that you have now in your second act that you never thought you'd have in your first?
I don't want to sound like this, but I'm going to say it. In my first act, like before I was married to my husband I have now, I was very poor. And I would raid my kids' piggy banks to get gas money. So the one thing I never thought I would have is just a bank account, just that I would have financial security. And like I said, that sounds so like icky, like but it's like when you don't have it, when you grow up in poverty and you lived in it, and now you feel like I'm okay. I appreciate that. And the second thing I would add to that is I never thought I would have a relationship like I have with my husband. It's just so solid, and it's almost like easy. Like I know he's going to be there. Like I know that. And part of that's because I turned into the person I am today, and I'm not picking fights with him every 5 minutes. Part of it's that I was blessed to like meet him, but are those good answers? I hope so.
They're beautiful answers. I love them.
Financial security and a great husband. 2 things I never imagined having when I was 20.
And what an amazing thing to have. It's what a lot of us definitely want.
And peace.
Peace, number one. Oh,
yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you again so much for sharing your story, because I know it's not an easy story to share, but I know that you will touch a lot of people and hopefully make them think that it's possible. Definitely. Well, have a wonderful summer holiday. You're about to take off on a European adventure. Lucky you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and all the very best with your second act. I can't wait to read your book. Make sure you send it to me.
You know that I will.
Thanks, Jennifer. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Your Second Act. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could rate and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to me.